Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Celebrity Stage Stories with Jerry Strauss. That is me. And of course, Celebrity Stage Stories is brought to you by Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine explores a compelling cultural theme with an intriguing blend of essays, articles, interviews, artwork, and photography, along with interviews with the biggest names in TV, movies, music, and more. We want you to visit Edge Magazine's website for free digital versions of the magazine, exclusive digital content, and a whole lot more at edgemagonline.com. And make sure you follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram today. And speaking of today we have got a very awesome, fantastic, stupendous conversation ahead of us because we are talking to not only one of our favorites from the small screen, the big screen, the written word, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's also, as we just chatted about offline, our very first Jersey tomato on this new Edge fueled version of Celebrity Stage Stories. You know her. We're going to talk about it. People know you best from so many different reasons, but you may remember her as Duff from the heyday of MTV. But she is Karen Duffy. She is here. Hi.
Hey, man. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, well, thank you for being there to be introduced. Otherwise, that would have been a very creepy moment. But look, I'm so excited to talk to you, and I feel like you're one of those people that have such a diverse background, and you've done so many different things that you're constantly coming in contact with people excited for you and excited to meet and see you for so many different reasons. And it's kind of up to you to figure out how they know you or when they best know you from, et cetera, et cetera. All these years later, with everything you've done and everything you continue to do, what do you think people still know and remember you best for?
It's interesting, Jerry. MTV was probably that was my first real job on television, and that had such a cultural impact. And so, really, MTV, and then of course, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And But it's interesting. The way I got my start was I grew up in Park Ridge, New Jersey, and I went to high school with Jimmy Gandolfini from The Sopranos.
Wow.
And so Jimmy was voted best looking, and I was voted class clown. So we always yeah. Oh, we went to
I would
one
have lost
attractive
money
high
on that
school.
bet, by the way.
But I did all the plays in high school with Jimmy, and everybody loved him. And he's just a fantastic guy. But what gave me my skill set, I believe, to work in front of the camera without a lot of experience was growing up in New Jersey. Our family had a tradition of service. So I volunteered at a nursing home starting when I was 12, and working with people on the memory care unit, people with dementia and Alzheimer's who had a very short attention span.
Yeah.
And I realized like how I could move my body to make people pay attention, how to speak very clearly, have strong, precise elocution, and be able to modulate my voice so I could be heard. And then I realized MTV is shortening everyone's attention span. This skill set will absolutely work from the nursing home to MTV. So sent in a video to MTV unsolicited and wound up getting the job. And I think having the confidence of knowing that I was a great recreational therapist gave me the confidence that like, hey, like people think MTV is hard work. No, try giving, a 300-pound disabled person a bath. Like that's tough. So I really felt that my scrappy Jersey roots really kept me going, gave me the confidence, and really, I so enjoyed the ride.
I wanna just back up a second because for those of us who might be just a tad younger than you and I, who may not have lived through the relevance of what MTV was in our culture, at that time in the 80s and the 90s. You have to think back to a time before everything was on demand, before everything was streaming, when, I mean, honestly, there were just far fewer options as far as TV channels and cable channels and just options in entertainment in general. MTV was not only something that, I mean, an entire demographic lived on, essentially, teenagers, young adults, etc., but also because, I mean, unless you're recording with your VCR on videotape, most of us are watching it live. So it's something that people are watching in droves by the millions every day, afternoon, after school, at night, and all watching at the same time. It was this giant communal thing. And you were a part of that heyday. So for you to walk in the way that you did and get that job, first of all, and then live through that and become such a giant star, to become Duff, um, it's like a monumental, iconic position that you had earned yourself. What was it like? I mean, we talk about getting there, but what was that ride like for you? Because I'd have to imagine that you were megastar wherever you went, one of the most recognizable people. I mean, everybody watched MTV.
It's really interesting, Jerry, because I believe that all skills are transferable.
Mm,
So, um, having a passion or having practice, when you're good at one thing, those skills can carry you in many different areas.
mm.
Um, and it all happened so quickly that I thought, all right. I just imagine that the minute I get on camera, they're just gonna throw me right off. And so I thought, so I might as well have fun because who knows how long this is gonna last.
Yeah.
And I I would get like a 6-week contract because they weren't quite sure.
Mm,
And I just figured, oh, this is probably it. So I was at the Grammys and these award shows take forever. And so there was a hot dog vendor outside. So I went and bought as many hot dogs as I could carry. And we just started throwing them around Radio City Hall because people were starving.
yeah.
And um, afterwards, I was interviewed by Howard Stern. And my contract was pretty much over like the next morning. So I
Uh-huh.
figured, I'm going to go out in a bang. And Howard Stern interviewed me, and I had a great time with him. And honestly, I owe my career to Howard Stern because he gave me a shot on the radio as his guest. There were many people lined up to speak to him,
Sure.
but everybody heard it. And so I'm very grateful. It was a lot of fun.
So did that lead to what did that interview lead to for you? Was that
Then
just
they gave me a contract.
they gave you a big okay.
Yes, they gave me a big contract for many years. And
Wow.
I was just out the other night with the man who created MTV. I'm still great friends with the people that I worked with, the VJs, the crew, the executives. Yeah, I think because we were all about the same age.
Mm,
Many of us from New York, New Jersey, a lot of kids had internships at MTV.
mm.
And so we were all in the same demographic. And it was really a cultural moment. And I was grateful to ride that wave.
That's really amazing. I have to ask, how did the name Duff come? I mean, obviously we know where the name Duff came from, but what goes is that a big decision, or is it just like,
It's
"Okay,
what I've
Duffy or
always
Duff?"
been called.
Oh, okay.
It's in my new book, I talk about nominative determinism, which means that your name has an influence on who you are.
Hmm,
So Duffy in Gaelic means clan of the dark haired. It is a name from the western part of Ireland. But you know, everyone else in my family was named after a saint or a beloved relative. And I'm like, there's no Karen superheroes or rescue dogs. Like, I just really felt like before it became a pejorative, I just felt mislabeled. And so my family calls me Cannonball and or Canny for short. So I've never been called, I've never been called my proper name ever.
Mhm.
It's always been called by my nickname.
It's amazing. So just to get kind of the because I mean, your career is so fascinating to me just on paper, and talking about it is making it even more so. But you graduate high school in Jersey, as you said, up in North Jersey. Um, Now you go to college and you graduate with a BA in recreational therapy, correct?
Mhm.
Which is sort of in line with your volunteer work, as you discussed before. So at that point, was your goal, was your thought process that that's the direction you were going to go in, or were you also keeping an eye towards moving in the entertainment realm at the same time?
Well, I chose recreational therapy because I love the philosophy behind it, where it is you focus on a person's ability rather than what they can't do.
Mm,
And I think that I don't scare easy, and I loved working in clinical settings, and I love being useful.
mm,
So I was absolutely focused on being a recreational therapist, and that's what I was doing. Um, but I had to pay back my student loans, and I was beginning my life in New York, and I was so broke that I was just, I couldn't afford food, that I got so skinny
mm.
that so they were like, oh, somebody saw me on at a bar and said, oh, you should be a model. And I was like, are you? No, but the
Yes.
guy I was with, um, was an aspiring model. And he said, well, what if I go? And they're like, okay, we'll go together. And we got cast in a Calvin Klein jeans ad. So that was before MTV. So I
Mhm,
had a few opportunities. I started doing commercials, but I always kept my job at MTV because I'm sorry, my job at the nursing home.
mhm.
Even when I was working at MTV, I
Uh,
kept that job. I
Wow.
then went off salary and went as a volunteer, and I stayed there until the nursing home moved out of the West Village.
Mhm,
Um, but having, it's interesting. I talk about purpose a lot in my book, and having a purpose is having something to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And I really felt that as a recreational therapist and as a volunteer, I really have my purpose. Now I work as a patient advocate. Um, and I feel like I have something to love, which is my life and sharing that gratitude, and something to do. I speak to the world through to the world through books and as a patient advocate, and something to look forward to. There's always a new book or a new project. I'm producing film right now, so it's great.
it's amazing, and I mean, again, and we're not gonna have time to really go in depth on all the different things that you've done, but just looking at your resume on camera or even, behind the scenes, as you alluded to, just some of the things you've done, of course, Duff on MTV, Dumb and Dumber, of course, an iconic role that just, it really brings to me, it really brings to light the idea of what celebrity really is, which to me it depends on who you ask, because I think there's probably so many more people who've seen you in that role than, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, your random award-winning movie of the year that quite honestly only a select few have seen. But when you really talk about what celebrity is, you're talking about generations of people who continue to watch Karen Duffy on Dumb and Dumber and will continue to recognize you for it. Now you're a Charlie girl for Revlon, so you're in the modeling game as well. At the same time, uh, within these years, you end up becoming a correspondent for a couple of TV shows that Michael Moore is hosting.
Hmm.
So you're all over the place in a really cool way, because there's such a diversity here. How much of it you know, is passion from you, interest in going in these different directions versus just your abilities bringing this diverse palette of opportunities to you, and you just wanting to take advantage of all of them.
I think you said it, Jerry. You've got to fly when the window's open. I was on a modeling job in Paris, and I don't speak French, and the only movie playing was Michael Moore's Roger and Me. And
Mhm.
I probably went to see that movie 5 times. And I started writing. One of the things, the habits that I have in my life is I write letters, handwritten letters, I, uh, and I write thank you letters, handwritten. So I sent a bunch of letters to Michael Moore telling him how much I loved his film.
Mm.
And then I heard that he was doing a TV show. So then I wrote to the head of the network and to the head of the production company. And eventually they just said, we either have to call you in and have you audition, or we're going to have to call security on you. Because, but I figured like I didn't play it safe. I stuck my neck out. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Like he's going to say no, or call security on me. But I really enjoyed that, and I feel that again, using what I learned on camera, I was able to bring that to TV Nation, and that was incredible. And my first movie was Dumb and Dumber, and it was also Peter Farrelly's first movie. And I helped him. I was trying to get, when I read this script, it was so funny. It was originally called A Power Tool Is Not a Toy. And it was so funny. I was like, I have to meet this guy. So when we met, we just really connected. And a movie that I am an associate producer on right now, filmed in New Jersey. It's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever.
Mm.
And it is written and directed by Peter Farrelly and produced by Andrew Moscato. And the world's greatest beer run, which will be coming out in September.
Mm.
And it stars Zac Efron, Russell Crowe, and an ingenue named Bill Murray. So it's a great cast. And it was filmed in Vietnam, Thailand, standing in for Vietnam, and all over Bergen County. So it was really wonderful that, to shoot on my home turf.
That's amazing. We're going to certainly look forward to that. I was going to ask about Bill Murray actually, because he wrote a bit of a comment, some praise for your book, and
Mhm.
some of the materials. So clearly a fan of your work as well. Is he another person out there in the ether in the entertainment world that you found a connection with?
I mean, he's Bill Murray. I mean, he's Bill effing Murray. Um, I just adore him, and he is such a wise, thoughtful dude. Right after Ghostbusters, after he did, I think, Ghostbusters and uh, Meatballs and Stripes, and he was having all this success, he didn't want to become a knucklehead. So he took off 4 years and studied philosophy at the Sorbonne. So I love the fact that what's so beautiful watching Bill is seeing he just enjoys who he is. And, we've been friends for 30 years, and I'm so grateful that he's a big part of our life.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Now, we have to get to it eventually, and this is a part of your life that certainly fuels a lot of what you do and a lot of the good that you do as well. 1995, and you're going to help me with even the
Okay.
pronunciation of this. This is how
Mhm.
difficult this is. Neurosarcoidosis.
Sarcoidosis. Yes.
Thank you. Now, this is something that it's discovered that you are that you have, that you are
Mhm.
afflicted with, that you are suffering from. I'll use all the synonyms.
Yeah, you
Um,
know what? I always think, it's interesting, Jerry. We often use so many warlike metaphors when we talk about a chronic illness.
mhm,
Like we're always like, we're gonna battle this, we're gonna fight it with these drugs, and we're gonna blast it with this radiation.
yeah,
And I always think, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I don't think I want all these warlike metaphors. So I rather than fighting it, because I'd be fighting with myself every day, I
Yeah.
think I'm coexisting with sarcoidosis.
That's really
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I just figured I just didn't want all those battling words. I mean, they're always telling you, imagine, the medicine coming and defeating, and there's this. I don't want a big battle going on in my body. I'm just like, hey, medicine, why don't you go take out the sarcoidosis cells? Do what you can do. Do your
Yeah.
best.
I this is going off track a little bit, but that is really fascinating to me because, you know, I am very lucky in that I do not have anyone close to me who is currently dealing with any sort of, well, I wouldn't even say that. I do have people close to me dealing with forms of cancer, but um I see. I mean, I feel like the trend over the course of a certain amount of years is very much almost like a marketing campaign of like the F cancer campaign, right? Where
Hmm.
everyone through social media or whatever the case may be, it's like just this big movement of we're, as you said, going to war. We're going to project a whole lot of negativity towards this thing that is not like a living thing or a person, like it, but it's just kind of giving it a personality and going to war with it. And it always feels very emotionally like unhealthy to me to have that attitude. And I'm not, it's kind of hard for me to say because I'm not directly dealing with it. Um, but it feels like you're kind of looking at it the same way, and that like it's not really doing you any good to harbor this ill will or this hatred that you're just creating to make yourself feel better. Um, I don't know that it necessarily makes you feel better in the end. Like I feel like,
No, I think that's a really illuminating perspective, Jerry, because um, the way I look at it is, listen, this disease it's incurable, it's treatable,
yeah,
but it's going to be, I've lived half my life with it. So if I didn't want chronic pain to make me mean. And, I didn't want to be angry. This is the one life I have, and I am so grateful for it. They say you only live once, but that's not true. You live every day. You only die once.
mm,
And so the fact that I live with chronic pain, I understood that pain is inevitable. We will all feel pain, whether it's emotional or physical. We will feel pain. But I believe that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I believe that while I live in pain, and it took me a while to get there, but I'm not suffering through it. I understand it's going to be there every minute of the day. And I've got good days and bad days. But if I only worked on days that I felt well, I'd never get anything done.
yeah.
So I slowly and deliberately live my life with a purpose. And again, I just try and make the point of view of I can be useful or useless. And I try to be useful. And even if if all I can do is just write one thank you letter, then that's a useful thing I've done.
Just to give people a little bit of background who may not be super familiar with this, how did it start? Like, was this a sort of a gradual thing for you, or was it just one day suddenly these symptoms were in effect and it was just on from there for you? How did you discover that you had this?
Jerry, it was like I got struck by lightning. Um, it was, I woke up one morning with a pain in my head that was so sharp and so shocking uh, that it made me pay attention. And I went from a very healthy, very active life to being chronically, critically unwell in a moment.
Mm,
And what happened was this lesion was growing in my brain and spinal column. And as it grew, your skull is a contained environment. So it crushed all these nerves. So it was the nerve damage that is irreparable.
Mhm.
And so I have neuropathy in my hands and feet, and then chronic pain. And so, I every, twice a day I have to take medicine. But when I have that medicine in my palm of my hand, I look at it and I say a prayer of gratitude for the doctors and the pharmacists and the scientists and the researchers and the people who did clinical trials, because they made this possible that I can get relief. And I think that I'm grateful that I can get relief. It's never 100%. But I understand that I'm going to be living with pain forever. And I wanted to make sure that happiness and chronic pain can coexist.
That's really awesome. And it's such an inspiring it's inspiring for you to say it. It's more inspiring because we know that you're living it. And of course, you're communicating it and sharing these thoughts and feelings throughout the course of the books that you've written. Um, I want to, well, let's just talk about them real quick because uh, we want to at least put them out there. And of course, you have your new book that is out. It's out, right? It just came
Yeah,
out.
it just came out. It's called Wise Up. I don't know, it's right here.
I got
And
you.
whoops, Wise Up. It Oprah named it a top 10 title of 2022, and the Post named it the best title of the month. And uh, it is immodest of me to say how proud I am of this, but one of the ways that I navigate my life is through having a philosophy for living. And I am really inspired by the Stoic philosophers. And um, the thesis of this book is, if you make beautiful choices, you will make a beautiful life. And when I read that, it just reverberated through me like a firecracker in a silverware drawer. I'm like, yes, make beautiful choices. And essentially, we are the sum of our choices. And I feel like this is a very, I wanted to share Stoicism, which is essentially a very practical, easy, very alive philosophy. It was written 2,000 years ago, yet it reads as if the ink is still wet. But the basis is, we can't control what happens. We can only control how we respond. So, in order to make this fun and lively, I wanted to write each chapter as a letter, because I wanted the reader to feel this intimacy. I mean, you're allowing me into your head to share my words, to speak to you through this book. So each chapter is written as a letter, and it's meant to be swallowed whole like a clam, like just each little letter. And I've got to say, it just, having the Stoic wisdom gave me a framework to build upon my life. And it's taught me to be grateful. It's taught me to be resilient. It's taught me how to deal with failure and setbacks.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend checking in with the Stoic philosophers.
And, what I was stumbling through and trying to allude to before is this is actually your latest book.
Mhm.
But those who want to really check out what's been in your head and what you've kind of released from your head to the world over the course of a number of years can go back and check out other books that you've written. Model Patient: My Life as an Incurable Wise Ass.
Mhm.
Clearly, I appreciate, and I think your readers appreciate the fact that there's a light touch with everything you do. You're teaching us and you're inspiring us, you're enlightening us, but you're not weighing us down with a lot of preaching, so to speak.
Mhm.
You're treating everything, including your own life, with a sense of humor. Also, 2004 is A Slob in the Kitchen.
Mhm.
And Backbone: Living with Chronic Pain Without Turning into One. That's I mean, it's I appreciate the laughter, and I think
Mhm.
those, especially those who are maybe experiencing similar things in their lives and looking to you for inspiration, uh, above or at least as important as everything inside the book, just that general sense of laughter that you're providing along with it, I think is a really important ingredient to everything you're doing. Is it as important for you as well to be able to not only put this stuff out into the world, but to kind of make yourself laugh a little bit and keep things
Oh,
light for yourself?
absolutely. Lord Byron said, "Always laugh when you can. It's cheap medicine." And I absolutely believe that. Um, and it's funny because I am speaking and engaging with many philosophers around the world and doing panels with them, and they're like, how come you find all the fun stuff about like philosophy? Like, I've been studying this for 50 years. And I was like, because I'm looking for it, and you will find what you're looking for. And I mean, I love that Seneca says, you know, always take a lighter view of things, for it's more human to laugh than lament. Um, and I that's what I wanted to encapsulate in Wise Up, is this radiant, lively, alive method of framing your life is here for us. You know, I read this book about self-help, and it said that one of the reasons self-help doesn't work is because the reward center of your brain lights up just for buying the book, not for actually reading it or changing your practices. The
So
same thing
true.
with diet books. They're essentially entertainment.
Yeah.
Like diet books and self-help should be an entertainment, because if you enjoy them, fantastic. I just think that classical philosophy, especially the Stoics, offer us such a clear and accessible way to outline your life.
No, it's I've got this book, You Are a Badass, sitting right in front of me as you say that. I am not the one who bought it,
Mhm.
but absolutely resembles that remark. The purchase was the accomplishment. I think. Reading it, a
Um,
bonus, and I don't think any action happened after that. But it's really something to think about, about
Mhm.
or I guess when and what makes us feel like we've done something satisfactory, and maybe pushing a level or two beyond that might be a good idea
Mhm.
for a
And
lot.
that's what I love. Like the Stoics are saying, and one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King was, he said, you don't have to take the whole staircase. Just take the first step in faith. And I think that's so wise. Like, that's what I love about reading classical wisdom. And this is a great primer to begin. Yeah, you don't have to, like, it's not about changing your life. Hopefully, you're doing well, you're existing. This is about, and I find the Stoics, it's about enhancing your life. Wise up. I have filled every page with a laugh or a crackpot fact, because in letters you want to be entertaining.
Sure.
And like the reason why we use margins when we're writing, and even digitally when we're writing a text or an email, there are margins.
Mhm.
Well, it comes from like ancient times when we wrote on scrolls. Rats would nibble the edge of the paper,
Hmm.
so they realized if they just gave a certain section of the paper to the rats and then wrote in between those margins.
Yeah.
So I love that, every we use this device forever, and it's essentially rat food every time. You will, when you next time you write an email, you're going to see it and you'll be like, "Oh, this is digital rat food." But then again, if you're using a mouse with on your laptop, then it might work out.
See, I feel like if I were to ever write a book, I would need to now just call it rat food, because that's lowering the bar of expectations, and
Dude, look at in this conversation, the Stoics have already enlightened you with wisdom. Again, lower expectation, accept that we are human, accept that we are, frail. I mean, I love Aristotle said, it is expected that unexpected things should happen. I mean, the problem is we don't expect problems. My kid is a hockey goalie, and he's been playing at a very competitive level for
Mm,
12 years, and
okay.
he's a goalie. And I realized that if I worried about him every time he went out on the ice, then I would decant his joy. I would be the one who would be ruining it for him.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out a way to find a way to be supportive and not allow essentially my anxiety to
Mm.
ruin his experience. And Jack said, I think you've done a good job because, Aristotle did say worry is misuse of the imagination. We have a tradition in our house where we don't have any technology at the table. And
Mm.
our family meal is breakfast because dinner doesn't work. And so, I make a nice breakfast. I get up and make it nice because this is our version of dinner because my husband works late and my son has all these sports events.
Mhm.
And then no tech at the table, just philosophy books and the sports pages. So if you don't feel like talking, fine. But I figured, if there's an opportunity to just get a little bit smarter at the breakfast table, and I can't tell you the incandescent pride that it gives me when my son parrots back a quote from the ancient philosophers.
I don't think I've ever heard Aristotle quoted within the context of talking about hockey before, but that's
Yeah,
really, really cool.
it is.
It's awesome. Well, look, we've kept you for a really long time, and again, we've barely scratched the surface of everything you're doing, everything you've done, everything you will be doing. We want to talk about the book again. It was just released this month. Wise Up: Irreverent Enlightenment from a Mother Who's Been Through It. Of course, Karen Duffy, Duff. Um, so cool to talk to you and have you blow our minds today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my fellow Jersey tomato. And I'd love to come back with when our new film comes out, especially because it was filmed in the United States in New Jersey. So it'd be
that
a great thing to share.
that would be really cool. I'd love to talk more about that. And that's coming out later this year, right?
Yes.
So, is there any? Do you do social media? Is there any
Yes.
where would you like people to watch for news about you, follow you, and stalk you essentially?
Great. Um, Twitter is at Duffy NYC.
Uh,
Instagram is at Duff Lambros. And there is a new website called KarenDuffyStoic.com.
ooh, wow.
So
I like the fact that you're diving deeper into the website direction while others are dropping that aspect of it. I like it.
I
I like
like it
yeah.
too. Yeah, I'm old school.
Yeah.
And so give it a shot. And yes, I think Wise Up is a great gift for moms for Mother's Day. So consider your shopping done.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of all of us, thank
Mm.
you. And, just in general, on behalf of all of us, thank you for being here, man. We're definitely gonna set it up. We're gonna have a larger conversation about the movie, and we're gonna work in a lot of other all things all things Karen Duffy, all things Duff, because we got lots more questions. So, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Jerry. Great to see you, man.
You
Take
too.
care.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.